Good evening, guys. Today is a special podcast stream. We got a couple special guests. I'm gonna go ahead and bring them on. I've got them on hold. Chris, Chris, brother, welcome to the
Thank
stream.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
joining us today.
thank you for having me. Glad
Let
to
me
be
get
here.
our, let me get Manny on here as well.
There's
Manny,
the man
welcome to the
himself.
show.
Thank you. Look, happy to be here, guys.
Thank you guys, both of you guys, for volunteering to come out and open this discussion and try to answer some of these questions that a lot of people have on the chats. I've got a handful of questions already ready for you. I have not discussed any of that with you guys. I do want to let our viewers know we were in contact to get connected, but we didn't talk about what the actual content is going to be or what the questions are. So, viewers, be advised, this is actually open discussion. Chris said he'll be on the hot seat. That's why he's in the bigger screen. If you guys look at that, because Chris says, I don't care. I'll answer anything today. Manny's
That's
like, I'll back on my boy.
yeah. I mean, Manny and I have done the hot seats a couple of times. I think I'm. I think I've been called out maybe one or two times more than he has in the last few years. But the reality is that there's a reason why I respect Manny beyond most people in this industry, and that is because he is willing to tackle these tough questions and issues as well, and speak on behalf of EPD, one of the probably the best distributor that 3M's ever had, and obviously on behalf of 3M in general, which is a company that I have a lot of respect for, as I think everybody knows.
Yeah, and
But
I'll
yeah,
echo
I'll
things.
take the hot seat. Sorry,
Um,
Manny.
no, thank you for the kind words, Chris. I mean, yeah, Chris has done a great job of being on the hot seat in many podcasts. And when I saw the post about no holds barred, ask any questions you want, and call out three big manufacturers of XPEL, 3M, and Eastman, I thought, well, geez, if nobody from 3M is able to do it, I'll be happy to represent. And I'm sure Chris and I probably feel probably have very similar mindsets on the topic at large.
And I think, in
And I,
fairness too, we've got friends. Both of us have got good friends that work at Eastman. And while I'm definitely not going to speak on their behalf, I think it's for the most part very much aligned as well, and we can talk about that as we get further in. But you just consider some of their brands, like Formula One's an example. If you guys don't think that there's requirements to be a Formula One dealer, then I don't know what's going on. I think you're probably going to be a little surprised. But again, that's Eastman doing a great job of making sure that they're protecting some of those brands that they've developed over the years or that they've acquired.
awesome, guys. I appreciate you both again. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity and addressing the issue at hand. I'm still new to the industry, so if I'm oblivious to some stuff, please forgive me, but it's just what I've been seeing, and I just wanted to have a platform where we can just have an open discussion instead of having a whole bunch of trolls and, mean stuff go around. We talk about growing the industry, so let's actually grow the industry. Let's get things straightened out. Let's people understand stuff. Let's hear both sides and go from there. We got some people coming into the chat, so I just want to welcome in Tim. He's in here. Steve is in here. We got more people. It's just only a couple people have answered. Ryan, welcome. As a large Formula One dealer, I'll say it's a shame they are not here, and I will call them out on it. Okay.
Oh,
So we got a lot of stuff. We got Randy just signed in. Welcome, Randy.
there's
All
Randy
right.
Upstate. What's going on, my brother?
Yeah, a lot of famous people here today. All right. So we'll go off with let's you guys kind of pretty much already introduce yourself, pretty much what you guys are. So if for the people that don't know who they are, you got Chris from Expel, and then you got Manny from EPD representing 3M. We got a few more people that's just jumped on. I'm just gonna make sure we address all the chat so that way they have a fair chance.
Sure.
We got Marion. Hi,
Hey,
Marion.
Marion.
Hey, Marion,
Randy.
another superstar in the business.
Yep. We got Trip.
Yes.
There's Trip.
Welcome, Trip.
the trip? Where's my moonshine, brother?
Oh, we got Marco.
Hey, Marco.
Marco. It's my
So
boy.
there you go. So we got some stuff out there. You guys want to start hitting up the questions that already got lined up, and as people, if you guys, anybody else want to come on and do this live with us, you are more than welcome to. Just remember, this is an open platform, but please control your language. Please control name calling. Let's address what needs to be addressed professionally and accurately.
Well, so you got the language part. We might have to bleep half things I say then.
Well,
Manny's always like making me like obviously look like a hoodlum in
well,
comparison to some Harvard
let,
grad.
let, let
But
me say the casual talk, fuck, and this and that stuff is normal. So I'm not
okay, good.
talking about that.
Uh,
Okay. So you don't have to be like, hey, suit and tie. Nobody's wearing a suit and tie here. And I don't think this industry is a suit and tie industry, anyways. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about like, getting out of hand and addressing people wrongfully.
yeah,
So if that makes sense.
yeah,
Uh,
100%.
we got Chrissy.
Hey, Chrissy.
Uh, we got Barrett.
It's hard for me to read.
And
I'm looking at my
oh,
phone.
you got to read them. Okay, sorry. Replying to Ryan Harris, join the life as a F1 ambassador.
To represent Eastman.
That, yeah, there you go. There you go. Come on board. If you want to come on, I'll shoot you the link real quick. There's no problem.
Hey
Jeremy
guys,
Davis just came
before we go
on.
before we go further in that, I want to be very fair to Eastman, if you guys don't mind, and I think that Manny would back me up with 3M too. Look, some of these guys would absolutely love to jump on these platforms. I've had private messages, as has Manny, from some of the Eastman guys saying, "Hey, you know what? Like, we love what you guys are doing. We thank you from our perspective for getting out there in front of the big manufacturers on behalf of us. We'd like to get on board too or jump on board, but sometimes we've got some restrictions from legal department, maybe upper management, and if so, like you can't fault them for that. There's a lot of people that do want to come out and sue people or claim liable or things of that nature. And if that's the case and the manufacturer is too afraid of that, then I don't think that there's anything wrong with that perspective. And I say, hey, like, you know what, you got to work within your confines. So again, if they can't join us for that reason, then that's understandable, because to think that they don't want to be here is not accurate. They want to be here.
Yeah, I addressed that in one of my posts. I don't know if everybody read that or not, but as Chris had mentioned that earlier, that some of them cannot be on here. So there's nothing, we still put the challenge out there. We would like everybody to be out here because, again, this is not to bash anybody. This is to get a clarification and understanding so that everybody can understand where the supplier is coming from and where the dealer is at and where the middle ground needs to be. And if there's some understanding that needs to be done, if there's some fixing that needs to be done. So there's a couple questions in here. I do have some tough questions in here. So that's gonna ask that kind of stuff, and hopefully we get some answers. This is the all what this is about, is a platform for us to openly talk, not hold anything back. That's why it was no hold bar. I know Manny says but
I'll answer whatever I can.
No, I'm fine.
Marco
But
says Eastmen
better than
are a bunch of pros, can't deny any of them.
yeah, totally.
Welcome, Steve Walsh. Fair play, Chris.
Thank you, brother.
All right, so we'll get our first question. Very simple. Why do you require minimums? This is gonna be the very first question.
Sure.
So I'll leave that one on there for a second. So go
All right,
ahead, guys.
Manny, you want to go first
No,
or me?
you start, Chris.
All right. So look, there's a number of different reasons behind this, and they're not always consistent within each brand. But certainly, I think when you talk about the big three, I think that there's probably a lot of similarities, right? All three of us are spending a lot of money in brand recognition and marketing campaigns and, influencers and all these things. And when you spend that kind of money driving a consumer awareness to the brand, not an installer awareness to the brand, you have to be mindful of what that consumer experience is going to be like when they interact with that store, right? So here I am as a good example, just XPEL spending millions of dollars per year between high level stuff like IndyCar to, much more grassroots stuff like cars and coffee events, right? And everything in between. We do, on any given year, we're doing over 100 events per year, or globally that is. And, we're involved in obviously social media. We're involved in digital marketing campaigns outside of social media. We're involved in print media, and of course we're involved with manufacturers direct, where even people like Rivian have come out and said, hey, we're partnered with XPEL. So now going back to that consumer walks into a shop, hopefully a brick and mortar shop, and has a good experience with regards to XPEL. Instead, too many times what actually happens is that that account knew that the XPEL name was sought after. Certainly 3M is another one, and I won't try and take any of Manny's thunder right now, but that's an obvious reality. And they get up in the shop, and maybe they think that that's actually what they're getting sold, and instead they're getting sold something of a much lower quality, maybe perhaps doesn't have a transferable warranty, maybe doesn't have the same warranty duration, or has a lot more stipulations, or maybe no opportunity whatsoever for that to happen. So what we don't want, number one, is for them to end up having an experience that they went into the store asking for XPEL or looking for XPEL and get something else. That's one part of it. Number two is that all of our shops, we've been quite open about that we don't want to overload a market, right? What we're really looking forward to trying to do, and it's not 100%, and I'm going to be very candid about that. We have not hit that mark 100% of the time, but we have tried, especially over the last couple of years, to really dive into like any given marketplace, how many physical XPEL operations can it host without pilfering the business from others. And there is a maximum, and we look at trends for both PPF and window tint and ceramic coating. And we look at how many square footage or how many bottles or fluid ounces are we selling in any given market, or dollars. And then we determine, can we support another shop there or not? Well, if what I have is a bunch of shops that are not XPEL exclusive, then it's really difficult for me to really bring on another shop and try and say, hey, in order to become XPEL, we want you to be, XPEL married and not utilizing any of our competitors in those spaces. And then they're turning around and saying, well, but yeah, there's a guy down the road who's using 10 different brands. So, there's been this question mark, and I even saw it just posted about, hey, is this an area that XPEL's trying to force more of that 100% exclusivity? I mean, yeah, there's no doubt that definitely has a lending effect towards it. It is something that we would like to see everywhere. Is that ever going to really happen where we're not going to have grandfathered accounts? No, I don't think so. I mean, I look at my good friend Ryan Townsley at PFS, right? I mean, the guy produces his own ceramic coating. Am I ever going to see him genuinely drop that and stop selling that globally just to be XPEL only? I don't think so. So there's that part, and again, at the end of the day, it's all about that customer experience. Think about this, and any of you that have done paint protection film can attest to this. If you only lay your hands on PPF once a month, your installs are probably never going to get any good. Like, that's just a reality. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but the guys that are really talented, the artists on paint protection film and window film, I mean, both those are very difficult, trades. But PPF for me is the harder of the two. And, you've got accounts that lay paint protection film once every month or 2 or 3 months. And then the client, the end customer, is really disappointed in the install and the quality. And like, it's not the guy's fault or the woman's fault for that matter that only does PPF that infrequently. But at the end of the day, what is the end consumer expecting? And when they go to an XPEL operation, they have that immediate belief that their PPF install and their window tint install is going to be 100% perfect. Look, I was just on the phone an hour earlier today with a test Model 3 customer showing me a window tint installation done in a southern state. And I saw the picture, and there's a cluster of contamination on the driver's window towards the top sash. I mean, there is no sash, but where the sash would be. And he's asking me, like, is that acceptable? And I'm like, no, like, I honestly agree with you that in this case, I'd want to remove it and replace it. And you're right to feel that way. And if my XPEL, a dealer, doesn't want to do that for you, then I think he's wrong. And I'm going to have a private conversation with him and try and get it addressed. But, you know, if the gentleman or woman is only doing that once in a blue moon, then I can understand why that install is not going to look the way the customer wants it to. And so this is part of where we're protecting ourselves and saying, hey, by having you spend this much, which again, like somebody broke it down, like it was something as ridiculous as like doing like a pair of roll-ups a day or something like that. I don't know. I didn't see the roll-up one. I know that one was out there, but I just equated it to this. Look, our least expensive film is CS, right? In window tint. That's less than one box of tint per week. Coatings, it's less than one ball of coating a week, not both combined, either or. And it's less than one roll of 24-inch paint protection film in a month. I mean, that equates to like what, $5,000-6,000 in sales per month. So are you really going to run a brick and mortar operation with $5,000 or $6,000 in sales and then pay your rent, pay yourself, actually have insurance? Hopefully, certainly run into some that didn't. You know, and be able to sustain a marketing campaign and stuff like that and everything to go with it. I don't think it's reasonable. So the auto industry has always, forever and a day, had minimums. I mean, if you do 12 volt, there's minimums. If you do wheel and tire, there's a minimum. I mean, try and get an account with like HRE. Let's talk about how difficult that is, you know, and what that looks like. So this is not a new concept. And when we even start with an account, we actually send a 9-question survey. And it's on purpose because we're asking them, hey, tell us about your history. Tell us about who you're currently utilizing, who are you currently certified through, and how much you're spending. And it's so that we can then determine, okay, is this going to be a good fit for us? Because I think, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of Manny, but there are a lot of people that desperately want to get into XPEL, will say anything they can to get in there, and then once they're in, not anticipate that there's going to be a level of us auditing or inspecting what we expect to make sure that that account is maintaining exactly what we anticipated from the beginning. So I'm really sorry for the long answer, but that one's a hard question with a lot of answer to it.
Let me give Manny the floor. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris said it well, and I'll respond not by speaking specifically to 3M, but just maybe by speaking more generically. I think there's a couple things to unpack. First and foremost, every dealer has the right to choose their supplier or manufacturer, and every manufacturer has the right to choose their dealer. And the presumption is that if both parties come to the table and provide something that the other's looking for, you have a match made in heaven and you have a good relationship there. And a lot of times, what is required could be a minimum purchase. It could be certain types of investments you make in your brick and mortar to promote the brand. It could be a lot of different things. And it's not just unique to a manufacturer's expectations of a dealer, not just unique to the window film or paint protection film industry, but to pretty much any industry. I mean, I'd like to become a Lexus car dealership tomorrow, but that doesn't mean Lexus really wants me to, especially if I can't buy 1 car a month from them or 10 cars a month from them, or I can't invest in the appropriate brick and mortar. And so when you look at a manufacturer who's spent a lot of time, money, resources promoting their brand to the end user, promoting their brand within the industry where there's a lot of brand equity, where it's a respected brand, then not everybody has the right just to take advantage of that and not provide something in return to the manufacturer, whether it be meeting a minimum purchase, whether it be merchandising your store appropriately, or whatever the case might be. So I think every manufacturer has the right to dictate who represents their brand, and there are going to be certain expectations in place, one of which could be minimum requirements. I think you also have to look at what is the cost of the manufacturer to have a dealer, right? I mean, you've got probably costs associated with having a legal contract with them. I'm going to assume I can say it for 3M that our dealers sign a legal contract with 3M because it gives that dealer the ability to use the 3M logo in their marketing, and that's really what the basis of the contract is. And XPEL may have something similar. Eastman may have something similar. Other manufacturers may have something similar. There's a cost associated with that. There's a cost associated with keeping a dealer on the books. And if a dealer is not meeting a minimum purchase, the reality is probably the manufacturer is losing money on keeping that dealer around. I also think there's an equity issue there, right? Is it okay for a dealer to just potentially take advantage of the brand by not really buying that much material? And I think if you see somebody that's not buying a lot of material, the manufacturer should find out why. Is it because they're using another manufacturer's film? Some competitive sales rep came in, took the dealer away from that manufacturer, but that dealer's not going to go to the manufacturer and say, "Oh, please cancel me, by the way, because I've gone somewhere else." I mean, that does happen, but it may not happen because a dealer's going to try to have multiple lines if it's an opportunity or if it's an option for them to have. I also think that when you look at uh, what a dealer why a dealer may not be buying the minimum, it could also be because their business is off, and that's an opportunity for the manufacturer to maybe step in, try to understand why that dealer's business is off, maybe even provide some support, some assistance to get that dealer's business back on track. So there could be a number of reasons why a dealer's not meeting a minimum. If it's because their business is off, that might be a little bit more easy to understand than all of a sudden, well, they're using another manufacturer's product and potentially either confusing the end user or taking advantage of the respect of the brand by not buying it.
Yeah, I love his answer. I mean, that's, he had so much more to that answer than I did, and I mean, there is a cost of acquisition for every client, and then of course there's a cost of maintenance for every client, and look, I mean, that's something that the manufacturer is gambling on in the first place, right? This is why we get involved with these clients, and again, I mean, some of the people were saying to me, well, what if I'm a super small account in like middle of nowhere? And I'm like, look, like I can work with that, but like, let me be clear. Are you in fact just XPEL? Because if you're not, then why are you asking me to support your operation if you're not going to genuinely support mine? I had some people that messaged me privately and they were saying, "Hey, well, I'm 100% XPEL. Please come visit my store. You'll see it for yourself. I don't use anything else besides you for tint or coatings or what have you." And I'm like, "Wow, okay. Well, let's talk about the rest of your business." Oh, well, then the rest of my business is focused on something else, maybe accessories or maybe 12 volt or what have you. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, look, like we don't, we can make exceptions. We have that ability. We just have to justify it. We made exceptions for body shops as an example. Those quite often are not purchasing that yearly requirement. No problem. I can understand why. Um, and so again, like with my team in particular, right? Because as the director of sales, really the North American team is who reports to me the most, and it was the North American team that we knew we needed to to address this with. We started this years ago, auditing the accounts at the end of every year. And this year in particular, there was just a lot more going on. And so what we did was we said, okay, well, if the account is XPEL exclusive, then let's for sure understand that maybe that's one that we need to just like work with them, like Manny was saying, to help them build their book of business and become larger. If they're going to be representing themselves with many other brands, then hey, then at the end of the day, maybe this isn't a good fit for both of us. It's not something personal.
So I'm gonna put something out on the table for you guys. I'm not intentionally trying to help the manufacturers here, guys, but this is something that was discussed on another podcast a while ago, and you guys should know your numbers. So let me share something with you guys real quick. One second here. All right. So can you guys see this?
Yeah,
All right. So this was talked on another stream some months ago when we kind of figured out how many cars on average full 40-inch roll would do. Okay, we're just talking about the basic, your CS. I'm not putting out Expel's exact cost, but
sure,
everybody's around $400, right? Let's just some are less, some are more.
sure.
Okay, but if you're talking about the top three, you're all gonna be around $400. Correct, Manny?
Sounds about right.
Okay. So let's say we got a 40-inch roll, 400 is cost, and we're doing 8 cars per roll. If you're
Sorry, can
doing,
I check? Are you saying that the cost of the film is 400?
yeah,
So for us, a 40-inch roll of CS is actually closer to 225. Just so,
225. Okay. All right.
yeah,
So let's be fair. Let's put it at 225. Okay. So 225, and if you're doing 8 cars out of a full roll, that means you're not wasting much film. If you're wasting some film, you're probably doing 7 cars.
yeah, we
Okay.
anticipate 7 per roll. That's our general rule. We anticipate a 15% loss of material when you're tinting, whether you're hand cutting or plotting.
Okay. So let's take 7 cars per roll. Okay. So if you're doing 2 cars a day, let's say you're a single shop person, you should be able to do 2 cars a day. If you're not doing 2 cars a day, you're not a shop. You're doing this on a side, and it's a side hustle. It's
Sure,
not. It's not a real business. I mean, that's how I look at it.
I
So
would agree.
if we redo these numbers, let's say we're doing 225. Just by that, I'm not changing these numbers because the cost changed. My bad on that. But something I looked up, and I want to kind of share this on both sides. So if we're doing that 4 weeks a month, that puts us at 900 a month. Okay, 900 times 12 months.
It's about 10,008.
Ah, look at that. Manny is great at math, man.
Yeah, it's 10 8 or something like that.
Right. So 10-8, but a roll is only 7 cars, guys. You should be able to do, if you're doing 5 days a week, that should be at least 10 cars for you. If you're 6 days, that's 12. That is way over what the CS alone is going to cover. I just wanted to put that out there because Chris Evanson had a question on this, comparing to a single shop to a multi shop. Guys, to be again, this show is to be fairness to everybody. It's not for one or the other. Fairness wise, if you look at those numbers, if you are a shop, I don't think that's too hard of a number, but I just want to put some numbers out so everybody can see the actual numbers because a lot of time seeing the number is different than what you're just thinking over your head. That's why when I actually started this show, the Financial Freedom on Mondays, I talked about numbers. Everybody got to get their numbers down. If you don't write your numbers down, you're never gonna know. And then that's what a lot of the I think a lot of the misconception here is a lot of guys don't know the actual numbers and they hear I know XPEL has 10,000. We're gonna actually one of the question is let me put that question up here is what are your minimums? So XPEL we obviously know from the latest post is 10,000 now.
Correct.
Manny, are you willing to share what your minimum is?
Yeah, so it really depends on whether you're talking flat glass or automotive, and this is more of an automotive discussion. And so there are technically, I guess, no minimums at 3M. What there are minimums to participate in our dealer or our auto dealer rewards program, in which case it is $10,000 a year. Um,
Okay.
but just because there's technically no minimum doesn't necessarily mean that you can justify having a dealer that buys $1,000 a year. And I think there's a couple points to consider, right? And um, there is no sense of entitlement that a dealer should have about representing a manufacturer's product, and there's no sense of entitlement a manufacturer should have about having a dealer's business, right? I mean, everyone has to be humble and earn each other's business, especially if you're a dealer trying to align yourself with a respected manufacturer's brand, or you're a manufacturer trying to align yourself in a local market with a respected dealer brand. I
I
also
100%
think that
agree.
I also think that when we talk about minimums, um, no matter what the number is, and I think based on your analysis there, it's not a hard number to achieve. Most people would probably achieve it without really knowing that they achieve it. It's maybe those that aren't necessarily 100% committed to the industry yet that find that 10,000 is a hard number to achieve. Or maybe the person's buying from multiple lines and just wants to keep them both going, and they're walking a tightrope with respect to each manufacturer's minimums. But the point is that every manufacturer has to protect their brand and their interest, just like every dealer has to protect their business. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's also another part too. Like, if I don't meet a minimum, I could be canceled, and that is a human feeling of being rejected, or now a fear of losing something, right? And the question is, well, what did you really lose? Remove the emotion from it. If you didn't, in the XPEL case of $10,000, if you didn't buy 10,000 and all of a sudden you're at risk of losing access to XPEL, but you were only buying 1,000 or 5,000 or 7,000, what did it really mean to you in the first place? Probably nothing, because if it meant more to you, you would have easily gone over the $10,000, unless maybe you're in a smaller market or there's some special exceptions like your business is off. But again, I think both of us are conceding that we want to find out why the business is off, and we can understand certain things. Other things we can't understand. And so,
So I have a question on that.
sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I am gonna ask a question because this was something that was brought up to my attention. Is that, and this goes to both of you guys, and we'll come back to Ryan Wilcox's uh, chat here. But what are you guys doing? Hold on, let me pull up this question here. That way, I want to make sure it's answered right. What are you do? There's two questions. So what you doing to help your dealer? And then I had somebody that didn't want to be listed, but they mentioned I was not given notice of change in minimum. I was just given notice I didn't hit it, and now I'm not part of it. So that was Chris towards Expel. But I think this is a question for both of you guys: is are you guys, third question that falls with that is, are you helping dealers track their minimums or are they tracking on their own? Because I think that is one of the a few of the questions that's flying around is that, hey, man, I'm not, you guys were at, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this one up there as well. You were at 2,500 last year and now you're at 10,000.
Not true.
Again, I'm just putting out the questions, Chris.
Sure.
Again, we want to
I personally
address
want
all the
to find out, like,
questions. So I'm putting all the questions out there because you guys are
sure,
hitting a lot of points at one time. So I want to put all these four questions up there because these are some of the main concerns that I've saw multiple times, and
sure.
literally people ask on this. So yeah, so one, let's hit that with you first since you're expel. 25 to 1,000, 10,000. Is that accurate? Is that not accurate?
Not accurate.
Not accurate. Okay.
No,
Little
was
little in time. Let's
if
keep it
what
60 seconds on this and go on
so
that.
there's people that are confusing 2,500, which was what we required to be on the dealer locator, and that was actually a monthly figure, by the way, for paint protection film. And then a few years ago, we didn't really have a minimum, so we had said, well, let's start somewhere, and let's start at 2,500, and then we bumped it to five. And then we bumped it to five. We made notice that the following year it was going to double to 10 because, like you pointed out earlier in your chart, that's assuming they're only using CS. Well, if they just use one tint a week as nano ceramic, that completely changes everything in terms of the purchase point. So we were like, look, if you're not tinting a car a day with one of those cars per week being nano ceramic, then we don't think that you're necessarily an actual business. And again, I'm not trying to be rude. I realize that some people will take offense to that, but in the way that we foresee an XPEL interaction with a shop and a customer, it's where that shop is at least doing more than one window film tint a day, or more than one paint protection film install a month, or more than one ceramic coating a week. And that's where we came up with the 10K. So the 10K is newer. There was an announcement about it last year. Uh, and many of the clients that said they weren't contacted were in fact contacted through the year. As a matter of fact, I just went through this with David Campbell in Colorado, where the client actually claimed that they didn't hear from David. I actually went into NetSuite, where we have everything recorded, found
Oh
the
damn.
found it from May, where he had reached out to the client to say, hey, I noticed that your purchasing is way off, because we see purchasing trends through Power BI every single day, every single week, every single month. We review them. They're in big red, bold characters when they're trending downwards. So that then we reach out to that account and we start asking, hey, is everything okay? I had a client, I won't say his name, super nice guy out of Virginia, reach out to me today and said, look, Chris, as you remember, I had to shut down my shop for 4 months. he had a really bad landlord situation. The landlord screwed him over. And I said, bro, you're totally right. You and I talked about it. It was, really traumatic for you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to reach out to Alex right now. You do the same and let him know that you're 100% all good. You got your shop back up and running in the end of April. We can prorate it. Manny mentioned flat glass. Flat glass, we don't have the minimum on. It's not the same as auto. But yeah, I mean, uh, it's and the other part too is this is kind of interesting, and I'm sorry because again I'm going to offend some people, but I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah, there was some negative chatter on that. I understand that, right? And marketing and all these people were like, "Hey, Chris, do you want us to comment on this?" And I'm like, "No, let this play out," because I got messages from an insane amount of bigger operations. Josh Popnick, I think, was the first person pinging me saying, "Thank you so very much for setting these minimums up," because he's opening up multiple operations. One's in a city where they're notorious for buying a box of our film here or there and then screaming our name and no other name. And they're literally bait and switching. And I mean, I know that that's what they're doing. Everybody knows that's what they're doing. And so by shutting down some of these unethical operations, which there's definitely some of those out there, from having access to us and having access to a brand like 3M. I mean, that's another brand. I've said this on other forums. Like, you're you'd have to be literally living under a rock to not know what that logo means. It's as famous as Harley Davidson and Coca Cola. And
Right.
you don't think the 3M's going to protect that brand? I mean, look, I know that Manny and myself have very similar strategies when an account, it's not like anybody can get a 3M account. They have to go through a call it an interview process for all intents and purposes to make sure that the two line up with each other. And part of it is that 3M is looking at what does this account actually mean in dollars and cents. Whether you want to put a minimum on the table or not, you're making a decision based on those answers. If I see an account that's spending $3,000 a year and they want an XPEL account, I'm like, hey, well, were you doing this temporarily? Are you now opening up a brick and mortar? Are you now going to start doing this full time? Like, what's your plans? And if they don't have any besides, yeah, I'm still going to dabble in it. I'm sorry, but it's not a good fit for us. And at the end of the day, like Manny said, I think some people feel genuinely entitled to just have access to me because they're whipping out their credit card. And I'm like, man, like, you think that that's all I am is just some like whore that's just here to like sell myself for a couple bucks? No, I'm here to protect XPEL and I'm here to protect my XPEL dealer network, and I'm going to. And if it pisses some people off, then so be it. But
Well, I mean,
you
somebody
don't
do
have,
fi-
you don't have to be on board with me. I've always said this. Always. Look, this is not for everybody, and I understand that. I don't want it to be for everybody. I genuinely don't. I want you to do whatever you really feel is in the best interest of your business. But don't ask me to change what's in the best interest of my business to bend over for you. It's not happening.
and that's very fair. Now, just what you said, you're not a whore. I do want to put out there that Mike Watson thinks you're sexy as hell. First of
Well,
all,
Mike,
so
I would
I
no
I
whore
think
all the
that's where the card that you're seeing that you're translating to being a whore is that's what that's referring to. But let's look at it a different way, guys. You're a business owner. Are you gonna hire an employee that's not gonna represent your best interests as a business? That is, to my understanding, that's where the manufacturers are kind of coming in at is for XPEL or for 3M. If you're just only doing the bottom CS, you're not doing any of their ceramic film, then they may not want to be represented by you because they are not trying to push out the very bottom of the barrel. They want their higher product moved out. Just like you don't want that, for me, like a basic tin shop job is like around $200. I want that $400-500 tin job over that $210 tin job. That's the same thing where the manufacturer is looking at is that, hey, if you're representing 3M or you're representing XPEL, we want you to properly represent our product. Same thing like you would want out of your employee. If I don't, one thing I've learned in business is that if my employee is not doing what I want them to do, a lot of time it's that I'm not communicating with my employee what needs to be done on it, what the expectations are. And that's I think same thing is where the dealers are kind of running into is like, hey, uh, maybe the supplier maybe also need to come in back with something back on this end to educate the dealer a little bit
Yeah,
more hand holding, especially with the new
yeah,
generation,
yeah.
training more, knowing the numbers. Now, you talked about NetSuite. I have worked with NetSuite, so if people that don't know what NetSuite is a very, very detailed program that will tell you your whole outfit from every little thing to whoever touched the account. So when you say, hey, they say they got an email back in May or whatever it was, you can actually in NetSuite you cannot change who touched that email. So if a supervisor went in or a salesperson went in, it will have a detail on every single person, what time they went in, and their key when they who logged in. So I will I will back you up on that, Chris, on that aspect that I am familiar with NetSuite, and if NetSuite says that there's something there, you pay the hell out of NetSuite. First of all, guys, the expense on NetSuite, and you see Manny shaking his head, is that
Please,
it
it's
is very
expensive.
expensive software. It is not Tent Whiz. It's not $100 a month, uh, but it is
Well, it was
very, very
great.
detailed for the manufacturers because I've been in a wholesale division and I have used NetSuite and I can contest for that. So those are a couple things I want to hit up.
Well, so
Couple other questions that we kind of fell behind on. I want to kind of
go ahead.
touch up on real quick because I want to make sure the audience gets their chance as well.
And I think
Can I,
Um,
can I interject something just and it touches upon two of your questions?
yes.
I just want to say I think it's important to distinguish between a manufacturer and a supplier, because they're all manufacturers, let's say, or they're they're at that position in the food chain within the channel, right? They're above the distributor in terms of where the film originates. Either it goes direct to the dealer or it goes through a distributor's hands. And I think every manufacturer has a different strategy. Okay. Some seek to grow their business, and all manufacturers are looking to grow their business by establishing a good dealer network where it strategically makes place to add, subtract dealers of varying levels of sophistication. Other manufacturers, maybe the ones that I call suppliers, look to grow their business by, for lack of a better term, slinging film. They're going to sell it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who calls their toll free number, who has a good working credit card. They're going to sell them film. And it's important as a dealer to make sure that you distinguish the two. Because if you're used to a mindset of dealing with a supplier and then all of a sudden you become a partner of 3M or XPEL, and then these minimums or these requirements take you off guard, well, that's probably because you're growing up under the culture of buying from a supplier where you think the only role that the film manufacturer has is to ship you film when you need it. But if that manufacturer has a different strategy, like XPEL does or like 3M does, where we look at it as a partnership, at least 3M does. I'm not going to speak on XPEL's behalf, though I think XPEL does look at it as a partnership. Then there's vested interest that the manufacturer has in choosing the right dealer to represent them in the marketplace. And if the dealer's not holding up to their end of the bargain, the manufacturer has the right to make changes, whether that changes to say, hey, what is going on in your business? Can we help you? Or to just add dealers or subtract dealers. And in that kind of partnership, um, you as a dealer need to know what your numbers are. Okay. And I think that question was asked as to whether or not the manufacturer tells you. The reality is, we do not tell our dealers in a monthly email what their numbers are.
right.
There are a lot of reasons for that. But then again, there are technically no minimums here either. There are just really minimums to participate in our auto rewards program. But if you value that partnership, you value that brand, you as a dealer should know your numbers to make sure that you're doing whatever you need to do to maintain that relationship. And again, this is not something unique to XPEL or 3M or any brand in the window film industry. It is not unique to the window film industry. It is unique to pretty much any kind of relationship where there's a third party that aligns themselves with the brand of some sort of national type of company. And so that's really what the partnership is all about. It is a two-way street. Now, another question was asked about what do you do as a manufacturer or distributor to help your dealer who's maybe falling behind, who needs assistance? Well, that's a great question. Why did they fall behind? Did they lose their shop? Did it have to close down for 4 months, as Chris alluded to with his Virginia customer? Did they lose their installer? That's a problem if they did. Maybe they have some personal issues that are taking away their focus. maybe they found another business opportunity or another product that they're going to introduce into the business. So PPF and or window film and or coatings isn't nearly as important as it once was. And all of those are legitimate reasons to say, okay, you know what, given that situation, we can work together, or you know what, I don't know that it's going to be a good fit. And if we do see as a manufacturer that we can work together, what can we do to help? Well, maybe some sales training. To your point, Hesh, about we want you to sell the higher end product, not the lower end product. And I think you do too, because you make more money doing it. Whether it's additional sales training, whether it's to help you from a marketing standpoint, our 3M's Auto Rewards program does offer perks to qualifying dealers, and we can help you take advantage of those perks to help you grow your business, which in turn grows our business. So there are a lot of different levers that we can pull, as I suspect there is for XPEL as well as Eastman, to help a dealer grow their business in order to meet those minimums, because that's what the partnership is about. But when all is said and done, we can't do it for you. We can't force you to do it. We can only help guide you along the way. But ultimately, it does fall on the dealer's shoulders to meet whatever requirements are mandated by their manufacturer.
Okay, I appreciate that. That is very clear. Now, I will say on the dealer side, if there is not a program, if they reach out to you, let's say a monthly, I'll put a self reminder on myself. Hey, man, where's my numbers at? I don't think you guys have any issues with not sharing where their numbers are at that
No,
time, right?
absolutely not.
No.
But that would be upon them to kind of reach out to you to say, hey, am I in line with my numbers or where I need to be?
Yeah, we
Now,
start on our generally at the very end of November, and we start sending them out as year end reminders, and we give them the opportunity to look. And we have to send them out. Like, we're a publicly traded company, we can't just rely on nothing but verbal communication. So there's a lot of people that received that email that ended up having very positive conversations with their reps shortly afterwards, saying, "Wow, I didn't realize I was short this year. Hey, thank you so much. Really glad that I got the communication. What do I need to do? Hey," and there's tons of purchasing going on right now in this very last week for a lot of these accounts to now hit that 10K, minimum. But as you know, we have another guest who's going to be joining us on the show, and they can talk about themselves. And what I also want to say is that we're not infallible. Like, to pretend that XPEL makes zero mistakes is just not the case. Let me be very clear. I make mistakes all the time. And when I do, I say I made a mistake and I own it. And I do I do my best to try and rectify it and take care of it, and our other guest that we have on the call is an example of that, where there was an error on the XPEL's salesperson's behalf. They did not make the account aware of it in the beginning of the year. They did not communicate with them through the year. And I know why that happened. I think everybody knows why that happened. But at the end of the day, it's our mistake, not theirs. And thankfully, it had a very positive outcome. But the email prompted, as I guess I was saying earlier, a ton of really good interactive conversation to say, hey, where am I at? I'm just hearing about this now. What can I do to fix this? Is there any leeway I can have? Hey, I didn't, like, I had one today. The gentleman, that there was an older account, grandfathered account, bought paint protection film patterns from us here and there. Didn't even know that we sold window tint. I mean, how do you not know that we didn't sell window tint? Well, it's not your fault. It's our fault. Like, okay, we send out email blasts, but the reality is a lot of our customers have the marketing email campaigns turned off on their profile. So they don't get those things. So that person's not a social media follower. And, now they're saying, hey, tell you what, if I switch all my window film over, will that will that give me the 10K? And we're like, well, what do you spend a year? Oh, yeah, you're way over. You're actually more like 30K. So yeah, if that's what you choose to do, so no problem. We can work with that. And are we saying, hey, spend it all today? No, like, you want to take a couple months to do an initial purchase and then blow through your current inventory to switch everything over. Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
so ultimately, what you're saying is you're working with your dealers to get those numbers done. It's got to be both way communications to make sure that you're both doing what you guys need to do.
Yeah, although again, like, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but like, if you're on our side of things, you have some clients. I don't even know if I want to admit this out loud, but I'm going to, that you just actually don't want to do business with. You have some people that are really, really difficult, that really treat you really poorly. We have accounts that have called and screamed and yelled at our customer support staff and made some of them cry. We had somebody quit over the interaction with the customer, you know, and then that customer is and expecting us to just, you know, like kiss their butt and keep them, and we're like, no, like, I don't know where you grew up, but the way you're treating me slash the staff slash anybody within our community in XPEL, like, it's not acceptable behavior. It's not acceptable behavior outside of our community. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very candid in saying that sometimes there's a desire to get rid of accounts. That's, I don't know why. I don't know why people can't understand that sometimes when they're literally that much of a jerk, that a brand or manufacturer or supplier, as Manny pointed out, may say, hey, you're more trouble than you're worth. Don't want to deal with you anymore.
That goes for everybody, man. I mean, that's not only just a supplier and dealer relationship, that's dealer and customer relationship as well sometimes, you know. And then I understand on that point, there's some people that feel entitlement on a lot of stuff just because I buy from you. In fact, earlier today there was a Facebook post on somebody on an airplane, you know, telling the stewardess off just because you got a flight doesn't mean. And she literally said is, hey, I'm an employee, I'm not a servant, so please treat me, you know, with due respect. So I do understand where, Chris, you're saying that sometimes it can happen. And if you're a business owner, this has happened to you at least once, if not more. We had a customer the other day just complain about us. Uh, you know, I do tires and wheels on the as well too. So I had a customer that bought some tires on a Lexus, and she bought a mid-grade brand that was supposed to give her 50 or 60,000 mile tires, and she got 28, and she was getting close to 20% wear bar on it. And we brought it to her attention like, hey, ma'am, your tires are wearing out. Plus, they're wearing out unevenly, which means that it's alignment issue. And her
Right.
response was that, no, I maintain my car. Okay, well, we do have a record, and you're supposed to rotate every 6,000 miles. First rotation was done after 17,000 miles. Second rotation was done at after 8,000 miles. And now you're back here for the third time. You should have been here now almost for the fifth time if you
Right.
kept with your rotations. And then your alignment is supposed to be every 10,000 miles. But then she didn't want to hear that. That was, you guys took my money, sold me crappy product, and now you don't want to warranty it. And we told her we can warranty it for you. We're not the one that made the product. We're gonna send it just like XPEL or 3M. If there's a issue with your film, we're gonna send it to them, or we're gonna tell them about it, and it's gonna be them that's gonna make sure that it is their product that caused it. It wasn't the installer's problem, or it wasn't the, you know, the customer. Window film, you chip that damn window because you keep on hitting your seatbelt. No manufacturer is gonna back that film up. That
Right.
is, you know, something that we advise our customers that, hey, you're getting window tint, be careful on that chip. You may not realize it, and there's a lot of customers that will literally take that buckle off, hit that window, and not realize that they're doing it because they're so used to it. I
Right.
had a business back in 99 in Sacramento. We had a railroad track that went right behind it. Okay. First 6 months, it bothered the hell out of us. After 6 months, we blocked that train out. We would have customers come in and be like, hey, shit, you got a train going right behind your building or right on top of your building because it looked like it was going right on top of our building because the tracks were literally right behind it. But after 6 months, we blocked it out.
Sure.
So, you know, it's the education, it's those things that we all got to remember, and we all got to realize that we have those customers too. So just because, and you don't want to deal with that customer, why are you going to be that asshole to your supplier? Excuse the language, but
No,
you know
right.
it
What?
is what it is. And I understand where you're saying from saying on that as well, Chris. So there's a couple questions. We need to, you know, give these guys that's on the chat some chance on here. There's a lot of good ones up here that we kind of skipped over. Uh, we're gonna go through it real quick. Try to, Chris, I love you, bro, but you're taking too long on some of these questions. So let's hit up some of these guys unless you want to be here till 12 o'clock. So Ryan had mentioned, I think there are some shops who have tried to get accounts with multiple brands with territory to secure an area locally to them with the top products to keep others away from them. So that is, again, I think where you kind of address that, and Manny kind of addressed the same thing, is that if you're playing with multiple places, that's probably why one of the reasons where you're not hitting the numbers. And uh, you mentioned this on Tin Wiz's podcast that I watched a while back is about marriages. You know, if you're not with me, you're not sporting me. How do you want me to sport you and be with you? I'm just gonna sum it up for you on that and
Yeah,
keep it moving.
yeah.
So we have Chrissy saying, as a distributor, what are the steps you taking to get your dealers back on track for meeting their minimums? So we kind of just addressed that. So I think we'll keep it going on that. Marco's got, you both are in the field a lot. What do you see as the biggest opportunity and biggest wins from the dealers? Okay, we have not seen that, so let's answer that real quick, and
So
then your guest is ready to go on as well.
okay, so the question was, what are we currently seeing as the biggest opportunity and the biggest wins? I'm
Yeah,
not
from the
sure.
dealers.
Marco's brilliant, right? And so he might be thinking on a very high level question, and maybe I'm not. But like, I think where I'm seeing the biggest opportunity, especially when it comes to window film and paint protection film and ceramic coating and detailing and stuff like that, is really effective social media platforms. You know what I love is seeing some of these operations that are hiring full-time employees to do nothing other than manage their pages and manage their platforms, because I feel like these are the ones that are are growing faster than anybody else in the industry. I look at AP3 and how short a time they've been in business, or Detailing Dynamics has been around forever, but their social media, look at Chicago Auto Pros, and I'm sure Manny's got a long laundry list of them as well that are 3M operations. But you see some of these operations, esoteric, like, man, there's some guys out there that really bang out some incredible content, and they've been smart enough to recognize that with this new millennial shopper, that this is like the candy that they're staring at instead of something else, right? And it's this especially the live chats and stuff like that on Facebook and on Instagram, these storylines and stuff like that. I think that when you've got full-time people dedicated to that, that's where you're seeing the biggest opportunity and the biggest wins happening.
Okay, we got your guest on, so let's get your guest on here for a second, real quick. All right, we will put you up here. Oh, I think we just lost him. He was fixing his camera, and he's back.
There he is.
Jake Reed, can you hear us, brother? Jake, can you hear us? You got audio? We have no audio from you, buddy.
Can hear
All
some
right.
kids in the background.
We need to send him a chat message.
All right. I just sent him a chat message saying there's no audio. So he's fixing himself. We'll let him play on that. We'll go on a couple other questions. We have Ryan saying that 10,000 isn't asking a lot, on my opinion. So you got some people that are agreeing with you guys on that. Tim C. Johnson said, does the 10,000 include the price you may for software or just in film or coding? So I guess what that question is that does the price for the software that you pay, does that count towards the $10,000 that they're spending with you yearly?
It does. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The only
All
thing
right.
that we do in that is training,
Okay.
XDC. XDC and training, I think, are the only two exclusions. Everything else counts towards that total.
I think when the minimum goes to $25,000, then the XTC, the training, and the hotel stay should be counted in there as well.
I think you're right. If that number has ever happened, I think we'd have to include all of that. But that number's not happening, as far as I know, for a long time, if ever.
So that was actually one of the questions, but you answered it. Great. Awesome to know that. Ryan says that the problem is most of the people don't know their net profit off the roll of film. Instead, they look at what they are spending. These things are not taught everywhere. I think, Ryan, that is a very good question. That's the same thing we talked about earlier, is knowing your numbers. Guys, if you guys need help on knowing your numbers, I do have a program on Monday nights called the Financial Freedom. We talk about spreadsheets that you can use for free. You need help with that. Your dealer is gonna help you out. I mean, your supplier will, I most likely will help you out with it, make it simple. But if you need other helps, please reach out to me, man. I'm more than happy to help out anybody. Honestly, that's the whole reason why I'm doing this as well too, just so we can have good education and information. Going on to the
Can Jake,
next one. I'm sorry.
is Jake able to, or is Jake able to hear us even though he's got his video off?
I'm not sure. Phone mic won't work. That's what
It
he
might be
said.
it might be smart for him to turn his video off because that gobbles up so much more of the bandwidth and then just be audio.
Turn off video and just go off audio. You got it. I just sent him that. Hopefully, we'll get a response from him. All right. Chrissy says, replying to Ryan here, 100%, 3 times. Perfect. Going to the next comment. Ryan, it's alignment. If you don't align, they don't want you. People get butthurt over that because of their shitty ego. Ask yourself, what don't you bring to the table? It's that simple. Again, guys, sometimes you just got to look at each other's relationship. Like Chris says, it's got to be aligned with both of you guys as a supplier, as the dealer. Same thing with you and your customers. Are you always going to hit up the Facebook customers, or are you going to start doing Google? Are you actually going to go out and get these higher customers? Are you going to approach the Teslas, or are you going to avoid the Tesla? It's the same mindset as how you do business is the same way they want to do business. I think transparency is key. Like Chrissy says, I think we're kind of hitting a lot of these questions as they're coming along. I got a good job. Thank you. So Steve says, so if a shop buys 10,000 a year and another shop buys 100,000 a year, what benefit does the 100,000 shop get from the manufacturer over the 10,000 shop? I did have that question. That is a very key question. I do want that answer from both of you guys. I'm gonna finish up that question as well. I hear you saying a reward system. Can you explain more regarding this as a win-win for dealer and manufacturer? I guess that is towards Manny because Manny's the one that mentioned that. But let's hit up the first part of that question until we get Jake on the line. Jake is typing something to me so on the side. So in the meantime, so if a shop is buying 10,000 and a shop that is buying 100,000, is the 100,000 shop, does the 100,000 shop have any additional benefit compared to the guy that's buying 10,000?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, we have official tiered pricing, right? And so that's something that we actually, as part of the audit every year, we have to review. So a lot of people for 2023 are going to receive a nice little discount on their account because they hit their thresholds, and we do that without them even asking. So that's another example of where we're looking at these accounts, on their behalf at year end. The other thing, of course, is something like Manny's talking about in 3M. It's a really well spelled out program. In XPELs, we've got something very similar. When what we do is we geo target, of course, our advertising spend, right? So when we're talking about Google or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or anything, there's a lot of geo targeting going on, and that geo target's going on in relation to where the money is being spent with us. We take a percentage of all sales and we tag that specifically towards geo targeted advertising. And so the more that an account spends with us, the more that they're automatically receiving from us in return on that digital marketing platforms. But again, I don't know intuitively what the 3M is. So Manny will be much better to answer that. But I know it's an awesome program.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, really, it's just like any kind of airline mileage rewards program. The more you fly with them, the more perks you're going to get, whether it's a bump to first class, priority boarding, free drink, whatever the case might be. The biggest difference really is the more you buy, the more perks you're going to get. The biggest perk being your placement and your placement on 3M's dealer locator. That's going to be the biggest difference that I think would resonate with the dealer, along with sort of money, for lack of a better term, co-op money, or maybe a merchandise credit to help you outfit your showroom when 3M changes its POP and modernizes them, or things like that. So there are a lot of other perks affiliated or associated with the rewards system or the rewards program from 3M, but those are the two biggest ones that I think would resonate the most.
See, told you you'd have an
All right.
awesome.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for that. Um, we got Trip saying we have all had customers we have fired or wanted to fire for the way they act or how they treat us. Again, that's something we talked about. We all agree on that. He looks lost. I'm not sure what Ryan's talking about. All right, we got your guest back on. Let me see if he's connected. Can you hear us, brother?
I can hear you.
There we go.
Awesome. We can hear
Oh,
you. Congratulations. The connection is there.
Got it.
All right. So, Chris, you want to introduce your guest?
I will gladly introduce my guest. So this gentleman is probably rather famous because Jake was one of the individuals that had received an email from us letting him know that he was not going to be qualified for a wholesale account with XPEL as of the year 2023. And Jake was the person that you know I think would openly say, and he's probably going to say in his own, that he doesn't normally get online and talk a lot of shit. Like, he's not that guy. He's a very hardworking 35-year tinter, just doing a good old country boy installation in his own operation, supporting his family in a town of 25,000 people or so. But he was really miffed at that email. He was really pissed off, and he posted that email online, and that's the thing that went really viral. And that's where my marketing department and brand ambassadors had been like, hey, do you want us to jump on this? And I said, no, let's please just let it play out. Let's understand that everybody's got an opinion, and some of those opinions we're going to agree with and some of them we're not. And Jake's was one of the ones that I'm not going to spill it. I don't want to spill it all. I'll let Jake take over from here. But Jake Reed is the owner of a proud operation in in a blue collar town. Really hardworking guy. So go ahead, Jake.
Can we get an introduction from you, Jake, for your own self?
I'm getting a real bad echo, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you fine.
Okay, I didn't hear much of what Chris said, but it sounded like a lot of it was good, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah, pretty much he did
It's
say
all
good
good.
stuff about you, but we would like to kind of hear from you who you are. So for the people that don't know who you are, they kind of get an idea, and then you can kind of share your experience.
I think he's
Did you
getting an
catch all
echo
that?
where he can't hear, which he can't hear. He may need to chat it.
Yeah, it's just repeating what you're saying after you finish the first. It just says it again. So, okay, hey, if you can hear me okay, I'm Jake Reed from Atkins, Arkansas, a small town of about 2,800. And I've been putting on XPL products for, well, I guess since around 2015 or so. I don't move a whole lot of product, but one of the things that we pride ourselves in at our shop is to use a quality product. And even before XPEL was doing automotive film and doing the paint protection, I was doing some of that, not a whole lot. But when they did start doing automotive film, I realized as well as the paint protection side was, I wanted that same feeling on the automotive film side. So we switched immediately and started using their film, and that's where it's been up to this point until this big thing's happened that we're talking about tonight.
So you want to share that part, what happened, and what the
Well,
resolution was?
basically, is you guys have all seen the email, I'm sure, and everybody read the copy and paste deal that I put up. It was just really a shock to me, mainly because I didn't get a whole lot of attention, I guess, from the XPEL support side, and that was being a country boy, as I think I heard Chris say on there. I'm kind of from the old school. I'm from the day when people used to stop by your shop and bring some donuts, hang out and visit and talk about a hunting trip or something like that. And of course, I realize we're in a different world nowadays. It's not like it used to be. I understand that, but so the email was kind of a surprise to me. Just because I probably didn't keep up as well as I should have with the automotive tent side of my business. As you guys know, I also have a truck accessory business and a mini storage business also. So I'm spread pretty thin, and I'm also the installer and one of the salesmen for automotive film. So I probably didn't pay as much attention to the numbers as I should have as far as what I was purchasing. I felt like I was really busy, but maybe it wasn't all geared toward window film. So all that being said, everything's good right now as far as, with XPEL and all. I don't want to leave the XPEL family. I want to be closer to them. I want to sell all their products if I can and move as much as I can. And I think now that we've had this open discussion online and then now with this live stream tonight, I think that will probably happen going forward. And I'm excited about it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for
If you
sharing.
don't mind, I'll weigh in a little bit just because he's got that delay. So first of all, my apologies. I thought he had a town of 28,000, not 2,800. So clearly that changes the numbers a little. I'm 10 times higher than what I thought he was. But look, he was an account that had been XPEL. He was using another brand of window film besides ours, and a great brand at that. And, there was a lack of communication from the XPEL rep to him. That is a fact. So when I say that we make mistakes and we're not infallible, that's an example of it. And I don't think that any of us can really say that we're not guilty of that. Any one of us that's in business, the larger accounts tend to get the most attention because they're the ones you're most fearful of losing. Some of you have got wholesale accounts, and maybe you have a dealership that sends you one tin every 3 months. And then you've got a dealership that gives you one a day. Look, guys, the one a day is the one you put your attention and effort into, and it's a shame because it's not that you're not appreciative of the person that's giving you one every month or every 3 months. It's just that you realize that the one that's giving you one a day is the one that would drastically affect your business more, and it's just a natural habit to do that, to focus on the big boy. So Adam is the gentleman that represents him. Adam is newer to XPEL. Adam was not doing the mid-year follow-up. Adam would gladly get on here right now and say, hey, Chris, I screwed up. I owe Jake an apology. I should have communicated with him more often. I should have got to know him and his business a little better, and I didn't. And this whole thing prompted a conversation between the two of them. Next thing I know, Adam jumped in the car and went over and saw Jake, and they got to identify that Jake was purchasing some of our window film for sure, and had been with us for quite a while and a big fan of ours. And he wasn't purchasing all of his window film with us. So, he was like, well, hold on, but if I switch this over, this will now put me over that threshold. And we were like, yeah, and not only that, but then you'd be 100% XPEL at that point. So the bonus is that, especially for you in a town where there isn't that many people, what you'd be purchasing would more than qualify for max purchasing volume in that town. So even if one of you, even if you train somebody and that person leaves you and tries to open up a shop down the road from you and get access to us, they're going to be told no. So, there was a culmination of things happening all at once. But at the end of the day, I ended up reaching out to Jake also after this was all done, not before, and just saying, hey, first of all, thank you so very much for trusting in XPEL and sticking with us, because obviously after that email, you were, pissed off, and I understand why. And I appreciate the fact that you allowed my rep to admit that they had made a mistake and to fix it, and that you had open dialogue and conversation. And obviously, I'm really excited for the fact that you're now going to be an XPEL only operation and married to us. And so I had suggested to him, hey, look, this is not going to be the story that everybody's going to end with after those emails. That's a fact. But I think it would be valuable for some of the people that were on that thread talking so negatively about the situation, the ones that were, to understand that, look, here's proof positive that even the person that started it can still have an amazing outcome with XPEL. And I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm excited for Jake, and I'm excited to get to know him better. And on the few conversations that I've had with him so far, I mean, guy salt of the earth, amazing.
Awesome stuff.
I wonder how many people we've just quietened right now with.
I'm gonna go
The
back.
guy
I'm
that
gonna go
started
back.
it all
I'm
is
gonna
the
go
guy that's
back.
now XPEL only.
I'm gonna keep it going.
Oh,
Jake, you got anything to go?
real quick, just so you guys know, I might die out. I have 10% battery life left, and if I die out, then I apologize. What I might do is see if there's a phone charger spot out here on the veranda. Keep going. Sorry.
No problem. You're fine. We'll go with some of the questions. We got a couple that are from the live, and then we have a couple other ones that we'll try to cover up. Jake, if you want to talk, just raise your hand because you got a lot of background noise. So I kind of muted your mic. That's the only reason I muted it. So just let me know if you want to add anything to that when you hear that. I know you got a delay. So we got Tim C. Johnson asking a question. How much should you see your rep at your shop? I know Lumar, we never really seen them. I would think if you want mine, we should see our rep more, or even a call from a checkup. So Jake's got something, so let me give him the mic real quick. Jake, go ahead.
Mine, we should see our rep more, or even a call from a checkup. So Jake's got something, so let me give him the mic real quick. Jake, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
See your
All right, I just want to say, you know, all this really ended the way it should have. Like I said, I don't post a whole lot about different things online. I learn a lot from all my peers on those sites, and I do enjoy that, and I appreciate those forums as well. But the way all this turned out with XPEL, I do appreciate the way it went, because when it comes down to it, it was really a really, you know, personal situation. When Adam came by, he actually brought his tool belt with me, and we tended a car together. You know, I see him break a sweat. So that impressed me, and that meant a lot, because he said he had, you know, some things going on at home. He was actually supposed to be off work, and he just dropped everything and came to my shop. So that was good, and I hope that's the way it is going forward. Really, he's not that far down the road, and probably most of our guys aren't that far from us, and we should be closer together and be stronger, and that's the way it should be.
I'm gonna go grab a charger.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Jake. Thank you for sharing. All right. So, Manny, since you are here,
By default, you want to bring up the
by
question again?
default,
How often should a rep be seen, I think, is the question.
right.
Or how often should a dealer be seen? You know, that's a tough one. I don't remember Tim asked the question. Tim, that's a tough one, because I think you're going to get a whole lot of different responses based on the manufacturer, the distributor, as well as the dealer. Every dealer has different needs. Some want to be seen, others don't. Some want to be taken to lunch, others want leads. So I think you're going to get a wide range of answers from me as a distributor as to how often we should see our dealers. I also think you're probably going to start seeing some manufacturers or distributors go more toward an inside sales model, especially after COVID, where travel was restricted. And I think many manufacturers or distributors really started to maintain their customers from behind a desk. And I think there's a lot of value in that, because you can actually cover a lot more ground from your telephone than you can from your steering wheel in your car. You know, if this were 10 years ago, or even as recently as 5 years ago, I'd say probably a good general rule of thumb would be as often as you can, right? As often as you can, and as often as the dealer wants to see you. And if that's once a month, or once a quarter, or once every 6 months, or once a year, I don't know. Basically depends on the dealer and the manufacturer. But I think nowadays, I think there are ways to maintain that personal touch without actually having to be face to face. But I think really the successful manufacturer or distributor is going to have both. They're going to have that powerful inside sales team that can answer a lot of your technical sales or marketing questions, just simply because you call that distributor or manufacturer. You're used to calling them to place an order, but now you need something that's a little bit more sophisticated in terms of support. An inside sales team can help there. The outside sales team can do what you expect them to do, right? They can take you to lunch. They can drop off product samples, a new product, do a demo with you, bring you some tchotchkes, or, you know, pens, or whatever the case might be. So I think what you're going to see is a hybrid of inside and outside. So while the frequency of outside sales team or outside salesperson visits may decrease, your contact with the manufacturer supplier can really increase if they're adopting an inside sales model to complement their outside sales team.
Yeah. Look, this is something that I've addressed on some other forums as well. Look, I will tell you right now that XPEL does not have the largest sales force on the planet. You know, I look at 3M and all the salespeople that they have within the manufacturer, first and foremost. But then, of course, they have incredible partners in distributors like EPD, where they obviously have their own sales force. They have an inside sales force as well. And so I've always said, like, you've got to recognize that some brands, their strategy is to spend a lot of time and effort in front of you, right, convincing you. And 3M's not that brand, by the way, so I apologize if I was leading up to make it sound that way. They're not sitting there trying to spend 100% of their effort trying to convince you that 3M is the right brand to go with. But there's definitely a lot of these smaller brands where that is their only opportunity, which is to try and convince you through what we call guerrilla style marketing, to show up at your store with a sample in hand and try and downplay the brand that you're currently with, and that you're not seeing enough time with them, and that they're not taking you out to a lunch enough, and that they're not cutting you enough of a discount off your shipping or your product pricing or whatever in order to try and win your business. And I'm like, man, like, if that's really how you want to run your business, then that's so be it. But I don't think that that's the smart way. I think the smarter way is to figure out who's actually sending you business. I own my own shops with this an incredible partner of mine, David Glendenning from Western Canada for years. And even when the rep called me and said, "Hey, man, I'm going to be in town next Thursday. Can you put time aside? I'd love to meet with you from 9 till noon." I'm like, "Yeah, sounds great. And can't wait to see you. And yeah, I got a great new lunch spot picked out." And then he'd show up and I'd be like in a bad mood. I'm like, "Man, what the hell are you doing here? I know we said today, but I just got this customer who's dumped off 3 cars on me. And I got this client who's ripping me a new one because I didn't have the car ready in time. And I got an employee who's telling me that they're feeling sick today. And meanwhile, they're out at the baseball game with their significant other or whatever. I mean, like it's busy shops don't have time for reps dropping by. I'm sorry, it's just the reality. Like they really don't. Even
Well,
even even with all of our great friendships. I mean, some of my accounts are some of my best friends. Burke and Brett Miller and Danik and Eddie. I mean, the Alex Jones. I mean, Tim Ham. I mean, the list is endless. But like when I hang out with them, all I'm doing is detracting them from getting real work done. I mean, shit, I go to All American Paint Protection Film, and Tiffany, after like an hour, is ready to kill me because that meant an hour of non productivity from Brett, which means they're now a further hour behind. So, like, again, like, I'm like, man, what do you want? Do you want me to send you customers? Because if so, then that's what I'm doing through my marketing strategy. Or do you want me to take all that marketing dollars and pour it into nothing but trying to give you a good time at IWFC and pretend that I'm something bigger than I really am and play to your emotions and try and convince you to buy from me instead? Like the end consumer is to me the more important person to focus on. But that's me. That's not for everybody. For those
I,
that
I,
for the
I
personal
think you're on
conviction,
the right side.
go with it.
I think you're on the right side. I mean, ultimately, as a business owner, I'm not, owning a business for the last 25 years in multiple locations and stuff. I agree with you on that 100%. Is that I'm not gonna say I don't like seeing my rep. I do love seeing my rep, but yes, every time our rep does come by, or our insurance agent comes by, or whoever comes by, they do back you up unless you have some free time and you are one of those guys that are not hands on at the shop and you have the time for that. If you are, then that's great. But for the most of us, there are the accountant, there are the installer, there are their own bookkeeper and everything else that comes with owning a business. It's about the benefits. How many customers are you sending me? What is your product doing for me? What is the relationship as where how much money am I putting in my pocket as well as yours? It should be that relationship, that marriage is like, what's the benefit? How are we both benefiting from it? And, are you building that market for me? Are you establishing that market where I can say, hey, I am a 3M distributor and that means something. I am a XPEL distributor and that means something because you marketed in my market properly.
Right.
So I think the mindset needs to change from. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the old country way, but you know everybody's now on these smartphones, man. I mean, shit, you know how much you can get done with one of these damn things now compared to what they used to be. And that's where our business mindset and where a lot of the people's business mindsets are going to is like, hey, listen, like Manny said earlier, a sales rep can probably attend 10 customers from back of his desk and get them taken care of rather than spend a day with one or two customers trying to please them and I don't want to say this out loud, but I'll say it, but to shake their balls and make them feel good. Somebody mentioned that earlier at another podcast, but I mean, ultimately, it's about what are you taking home with you? What is your business benefiting? Our whole goal of being in business is to make more money, to make the money more smartly, work hard but smart, and not overwork ourselves. I mean, ultimately, a lot of tenters, they're busting their ass. At 40 years old, you guys look like you're fucking 65. So, and your backs are that, and the problem is because we're not working smarter, man. I mean, shit, I'm sorry if I'm renting off a little bit here, but if somebody's coming out and giving you advice or giving you the tools to exceed and make more money, sell the ceramic tin, man. Don't sell that cheap stuff. Don't be that $100 tin shop. Be that, Mike Norg, man, shit. $1,100 tickets for tent? Come on. Who does not want that? That means all I have to do is do one car a day, man. I don't want to do more than that. If I can get $1,100 out of one car, shit, that's all I'll do. You know, I'm just being real.
I get it.
So I agree with you. I'm gonna, like I say, I'm gonna take both sides, man. I'm gonna be on both sides, but I'm gonna make it as fair as possible. I'm not gonna be on one sided. Whether it's the dealer, whether it's the customer. I am a customer. I'm not a dealer. I'm not affiliated with any of these. Nobody's sponsoring me. This is me just doing this and thanking these guys for coming out and actually answering the call because we need this education. So
And
you know,
there's a time and place for sure that you want to spend with a customer. Look, we have our XDC, 3M has their dealer conference. We have SEMA. There's other events. Look, we're all going to Tinter Battle soon, right? So, props to that.
seven
There's
days
other
away.
get together where we're not in your work environment, where we're not going to detract from what's going on. And like, do I enjoy getting together with customers and going out for a nice meal or, going out shooting guns or whatever? Of course. Of course. But at the end of the day, it's for me, it's like I can only accomplish so much. And so, like you said, I'm much smarter to focus on 10 than to focus on one.
Right. All right, so we got a couple questions here. We have a question from Chrissy for Jake. Jake actually is on the live, just attending. He's not connected anymore, so he did answer this question. Chrissy asks Jay, "Do you feel like the minimum push you to being an exclusive XPEL shop?" His response was replying to Chrissy, "No, not at all. If anything, it was more of a wake up call to get closer to a stronger brand." And then we have John Little. Most of y'all know John Little. I got to meet him at WFR. He's a great person.
Yeah.
Real humble guy for how long he's been, man. I'm a new guy, and he literally took his time out, and we talked for a little bit, and I found out later on who John Little was. But anyways, John Little says, "Hey, $100,000 shop is making more money. That's their benefit compared to a 10,000." But guys, that yes, you're making more money, but everybody has a tier pricing. I don't know how they say it in tent world, but in tire world, it's all about tiers. If I'm buying certain amount of tires, I'm on a certain tier. If I'm buying more, I'm on a higher tier. What that means ultimately is I'm getting a better discount. I'm buying the same film roll for cheaper. And the more I push, the more benefit it benefits my shop at the end of the day. What we were just talking about a few minutes ago is, do you want to see your rep or do you want to see the benefits? Benefits are the more you can push out, the more benefits you're going to have. The guy that has one shop compared to the guy that has three shop, the three guy shop obviously is going to all sell you because he's got three locations. But at the end of the day, he does also have three headaches. But it's what you put into the business is what you're going to get back, regardless. We got Marco here saying, "Hope all of three of you will be doing jiu-jitsu workout at Tenor Battles 23 against Chris. Are you crazy? Have you seen me, man?" I'll watch him. I ain't joining in.
Marco's the first one in. Let's just put that out there now.
Marco didn't want to do the hot sauce challenge. How he's gonna do jiu-jitsu?
Tap me out.
I'm pretty sure you'll let Manny tap you out just for the heck of it.
Manny, I would let for sure. Man, you don't understand. If Manny did for some reason to have some claim to fame that he actually tapped me out, I'd be like, Manny, go ahead. I'll even show you how to do it. So you probably wouldn't.
Okay, Marco came back saying, "No, I'm just saying let's roll for a workout. That's all." Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'm willing to try.
Marco, you put the mats there. I promise you, I'll bring my gi. Promise.
I will attempt something. Okay, I attempted roller skating after 23 years. I didn't fall down, so I feel pretty confident. I'll be on the mat.
There we go.
All right, we got Marco saying my kids are teaching me. Yes, it's okay. Well, you got Chris right here. You can get a proper training on it. All right, so I'm gonna go back to some.
Bring the kids with him. I'll give them a private.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to some of these.
Shout out to Leanne Watson, by the way. She's sitting there laughing her ass off, texting me in the background because she's watching with Mike Watson right now.
Nice. All right, so a few other questions that I wanted to kind of go over that is not in the chat, but that was mentioned on some of these platforms that some of these people wanted to ask. Can you ask about territory boundaries for shops as well, if they exist? So I think that is a great question. That is a question I would also like to get an answer on. Is that
It's
this
a
was
hard,
asked by Chris Evanson.
yeah, it's a hard answer. So look, number one is we're going to look at the first metric is what is the population that of the area that you're servicing, right? So, if you're in a major metropolis area like, Manhattan, right? And you've got a total of whatever, call it 10 million plus people, then we're looking at like, are you buying 10 million bucks from us? Because our first metric is to try and aim for $1 per person per year in the United States. That's the goal that we're currently looking towards and accomplishing pretty quickly. But to also understand what that means is that you need to understand we're looking after all product representation, right? So you'll have a really good tint shop in a town um, where maybe the town's got 50,000 people and the tint shop's buying 50,000 bucks a year. But the problem is the tint shop doesn't want to do paint protection film or window tint, or sorry, I mean a ceramic coating. And we're like, look, like the problem is that we've got XPEL customers that want all three of those products done. And if, could we talk to you about that? Is there any chance you'd be willing to learn to do PPF and coding? Because if so, that would be great. We already have our partnership here. But if the answer is no, which some of them don't want to do, and that's fine, then we've got to understand that we need to still sell that product in that marketplace. So perhaps that would end up bringing another store on. The first and foremost thing is the shop literally exclusive? And I had a shop, a really nice guy, amazing guy, Florida guy, loved the guy to death, but he kept telling me how married he is to me and how exclusive he is with me. And I'm like, bro, like, why are you saying that? Like, well, because that's the only film I use. Like, yeah, but you're not using my coding. You're using somebody else's coding. Yeah, but you guys brought the coding in after me. And I said, that's true. So that qualifies you as a grandfathered account, but you're not an exclusive account. You actually have my competitor inside your store and you're selling to XPEL customers. So the exclusivity is categorically, hands down, an absolute requirement. And if that's not there, then there isn't any such thing as a territory. Then it's the second part that I mentioned. So, our as I said, target is $1 per person. If we realize we're getting close to $1 per person with the existing operations, we don't end up in. Look, guys, I don't know what it's like for 3M, but I guarantee you it's probably pretty high also. Look, we turn down more than 9 out of every 10 people that ask us for an account. 9 out of every 10. The number one reason for the turn down, if you see those emails that go to those people, it is you are too close to an existing XPEL operation. We don't have room to service your account. It's not that we don't want to, just don't have the room. So, and I know that 3M operates the same way because I know Manny has this amazing process that he goes through when deciding on whether an account is a good fit. Eastman does the same thing, guys. You got a Lumar account that's too close. You got a Suntech account that's too close. You got a Formula One account that's too close. We're bringing you in. It's just a good, healthy way of doing business. But it's
So
not a 5 mile thing. Because if you gave me 5 miles in Manhattan, holy shit, versus 5 miles in rural Pennsylvania, that means nothing.
So are you guys communicating that with your dealers when you're doing territory? Are you guys talking about what numbers need to be per what miles it
Yeah.
is, or is that
Yeah.
something that's laid out so your dealers understand that more clearly?
It's ambiguous to some extent because you still need to recognize what is the market. So it's really easy when the market is smaller, right? If the shop is in an account, let's say a population of 100,000 or less, so simple to dive into, right? How much is your current purchasing? You told me that you're currently buying $90,000 from your existing company and you want to switch over to XPEL. Well, I don't have anybody else there. I need somebody there. Do you look after all product lines? You do? Perfect. Your 90 grand is going to cover what I need for that city. It's yours. Stay exclusive and it stays yours. If you lied to us and you told us it was $90,000 in purchasing, and then the very first year we only see 20 grand from you, which has definitely happened on many occasions. We haven't asked people for proof of their invoices from the previous suppliers, and maybe that's something we needed to do, but we definitely didn't. And so there's been many a time where people told us they were a much bigger buyer than they really were. And so because of that, then, we didn't necessarily kick them out, but we didn't obviously say, well, then we're going to stick to the same agreement in terms of, call it like territorial understanding. And every year we have a target, right? Every year my entire team has a target of growth. We relay that target to the clients and we say, look, we're expected to grow by this much percentage this year. We want you to be aware of it because some of you are really comfortable in being the size that you currently are, whether it's a one-man shop or a five-man shop or whatever. You're currently not looking to expand on more employees and a bigger space. And so if that's the case and you're tapped out, but I still need to grow, well, that growth is going to end up coming from another account that's somewhat in the same area. And that's just a reality. But again, we're explanatory about this. So yeah, when we have these conversations with accounts, we let them know up front. And am I saying it was always like that? No, because we didn't run our business like this always, right? This has only been around since I came along, and even then it was only in the Eastern, it was only specifically against Manny. I was only targeting all of Manny's clients. I'm teasing, of course, but it was in the 15 states that I was running. And then we saw the results, started spreading that out across the Eastern US. And then now that I'm in charge of sales, more specifically for North America wide.
So it's evolution. It's progress, basically.
Progress.
Right. All right. So I have a question from Tim. But why does a tinter have to do coding? I just
Oh,
say that because I'm good at tinting, not detailing to do coding.
no, I don't want them to do tinting. Sorry, detailing, coding them. Please, I apologize. I really, really do not want them to change their forte. If they've got a business that's structured around just PPF or just coding or just tint, I am definitely not saying you need to go and bring these other services in. What I am saying is please respect the fact that I have retail clients that are expecting more than just tint or just coding or just paint protection film from me. And if you're not the person in the market that's able to service that, then we have to have a heart-to-heart conversation that there will probably be another person brought in who can service that. And hopefully they're just doing the opposites of you. That would be the ideal situation, but that doesn't always happen. But there are many circumstances where we have a tinter and they don't do PPF or coding. And then we have a shop that does PPF and they don't even do coding, but we're like, hey, tell you what, can you bring on coding? And then what I'd like to do is pair you up with this shop who's already in the area. You stay in your lane, they stay in theirs, service each other's customers, make sure it's an XPEL experience for the customer with all brands being represented or all product lines being represented by us. And let's move forward. And that has happened, but unfortunately, more often than not, I'm sure it's where it's somebody who's probably also doing what you're currently doing. So, but yeah, so sorry. I don't want you to make that change if you don't want to.
So the follow-up question on that would be is let's say Tim is the tinter and you got somebody and you go to Tim like, hey, if you're not gonna do PPF, you're not gonna do ceramic coating, we have let's say Manny right across the street. Manny is gonna do this. But Manny is currently not doing tinting, but Manny adds tinting once he has your PPF and your ceramic coating. Are you doing anything to protect him? Because
Yeah,
that was one of the questions that was thrown out is that a lot of the manufacturers, I'm just being frank on this, is a lot of manufacturers will we as a dealer help a manufacturer get to a higher level and then they forget about us and they just want the bigger accounts. They neglect us and they let us go. That is one of the biggest thing that I've seen on the questions. So
sure.
following up on Tim, I think a lot of people have the same question. How do
Well,
you address that, or do
let
you
me
ignore it?
let me answer the last one first because that's the easiest one for me. I can't even tell you how many times, and I don't know if I could ever provide proof, but you'd have to literally take my word for it that I can't tell you how many times I have been approached by an account that wants to get in that says, look at how much I'm buying. Look at how big my operation is. Go online. Here's videos of my shop. Look at how many bays I have. Blah, 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 blah. I'm the biggest buyer for this brand. You should bring me on and get rid of them instead. And I'm like, not happening. I am not selling my soul to try and bring on a larger account. Not if the first account was married to me, exclusive, and in turn loyal, right? They deserve that loyalty back. So Does that mean that the other account doesn't come on? Sometimes it does, right? Because again, sometimes the one shop is not being realistic. They're buying $50,000. They're servicing a population of 1 million people. They don't understand that that means I need $1 million, not 50 grand. There's a shop that's 20 miles down the road, and that's a really big shop, and they become XPEL, and now that's another $250,000 brought on the board, and they get really upset that and I'm like, guys, come on, like I realize that you're worried about this, but you shouldn't be. And so that's difficult. Now, going back to the first part, yeah, there is a lot of accounts in XPEL that you will see comments that says this account is a PPF encoding account only. We have specifically told them not to get into window tint because there's a window tint operation right across the street. And, we want those two to work well with each other and service each other. The problem is that you wouldn't believe how often it is that the account across the street that was the first one in actually starts doing the other service, meaning it was a tint shop that wasn't doing paint protection film. And now they keep sending the PPF sale across the street to this other guy, and they're seeing the ticket and they're seeing how big the dollars is. And then they decide they want to start offering paint protection film and they're getting trained. And now it's like, oh, damn. So when that happens, there's obviously some communication, tougher one. But the first thing we talk about is, hey, there's not going to be price wars. We're not going to allow you to devalue our brand and in turn try and hurt each other. Some manufacturers are comfortable in talking about price, and some brands aren't. Whichever brands aren't, hey, please understand that that's probably the way that their lawyers feel about that conversation going. XPEL is totally cool with it. And we will 100% address it. Now, does that happen again in every single market? Is it the same No, there's no way to make it the same everywhere. But we're trying to be as consistent as we possibly can. And again, I think that it's fair to say that previously there wasn't one consistent message at the top. And my boss, the person that was ahead of me previously, amazing guy, still with the company, does some other stuff instead. Mike Mail, he had this different approach of management, which was autonomy, right? Like, hey, you run your territory how you see fit. And I'm like, man, like that's not something I want to hear if I'm a customer, because I don't want something different in one area than another. I want the same playing field. So now that I'm in charge of it instead, that's where you're seeing a lot more consistency, and that will continue to develop throughout 2023.
So, Manny, we got a question for you. Um, Tim says, Manny, do you sell to most shops if they reach out to buy from you?
Yeah, Tim, good question. So it depends on the product you're talking about. Again, I'll focus on the automotive products here. Um, when you look at the top four products that we sell: automotive window film, paint protection film, ceramic coating, and vinyl wrap film. Ceramic coating and vinyl wrap film can pretty much be purchased anywhere. So yes, we would sell to anybody who approaches us there. On the paint protection film side, we would sell to people who come through training or are established installers. On the automotive window film side, what we do is pretty much what Chris had explained. We have a process where we send you a questionnaire. We ask for some information based on where you're located. If we feel we can add another dealer in that marketplace, we may have a face-to-face meeting with you, show you our business plan or our playbook, look to see yours, get a better understanding of you, give you the information necessary to see if we're a good fit for you while we're trying to see if you're a good fit for us. And I mean 3M. And so I'd say it's probably a little bit more blurred, the lines of, or the rules of engagement are, compared to what Chris has explained for XPEL, because it really is product dependent.
So that's great. I've got a follow up question on the previous question that Chris had answered about pricing. This also goes for 3M because I think we want to hear that from 3M as well. Is that I know each market has a different pricing. Do you or your reps work with your dealers to let them know where the pricing needs to be? Or is there like a, hey, this is the minimum or this is where the pricing needs to be? At what level do you guys communicate with your dealer and how much do you guys enforce that?
Okay, so I was the one that really started this on behalf of XPEL in the Washington D.C. market and the New York City market many years ago. And going through our legal, I wanted to verify that what I was doing going to be was not going to be was not going to be looked at as some sort of illegal activity, right? And what I was able to determine was that if we feel that you are devaluing our brand by advertising things like $99 window tint, that's a really good example of one where that would not look good for an XPEL brand awareness, or 3M for that matter, for sure. Imagine somebody advertising crystalline for 99 bucks. I'm pretty sure 3M would put an end to that in 2 seconds. Um, but this is something that I started, and then what's happened is, I have not been in charge of all of North America, right, until very recently. And so just recently I've started training the rest of the sales team on how to start having these conversations with their accounts. I was in Scottsdale a couple weeks ago, and we have an incredible rep out there, Pete Costanzo. And Pete was like, Chris, like, how do you do these things? And I'm like, look, I get everybody together in one room, and we don't have a colluding thing going on. What we have is a direct conversation, and I let them know, hey, look, some of you are suddenly racing to the bottom on price points, and I want to let you know that I'm not gonna let that happen, and that at the end of the day, you're going to make XPEL look bad to a consumer, and that's an image that we're not willing to let you tarnish. So we will do a some sort of like survey of like, where's the lowest price in the market, where's the highest price in the market, and then come back with some what we would feel is fair guidelines, or in other words, something like an MSRP, right, in essence. As for 3M, again, I'll let Manny speak on their behalf.
Manning, same question.
Yeah, so 3M doesn't have any manufacturer suggested retail prices that I'm aware of. And certainly as a distributor, we try to shy away from those questions about pricing, I for a lot of different reasons. Um, I think we'd be okay talking about what we feel is market pricing to help a dealer price and provide some guidance. But certainly it's not a requirement. There's no enforcement. There's no penalty or anything like that. A dealer is free to set their own pricing. So, if they set the price to lose money, I guess theoretically that's okay. Not sure why they would do it or how long they could do that for. So there is no manufacturer suggested retail pricing on any of these products that a dealer is required to stick to. But we would provide a dealer guidance in terms of what we think is the market price for a certain line of film in order for them to get a feel for the market and where they should price.
Yeah, and I'll
So
follow that up with one little extra part if you don't mind. When we bring on a new account, that's usually where the biggest fear is. The biggest fear is usually when you bring on another account in a marketplace, because what everybody's worried about is that the way that they're going to try and capture some market share is to undercut everybody. And we will tell them, as part of that opening communication, what we call the introduction call, that should we decide to partner with each other, if your intention is to upset the rest of the XPEL marketplace by undercutting everybody, I can tell you right now, this is not going to be a good fit for us. So we somewhat address it right from the very beginning.
So, Manny, going back to that question, if somebody is taking 3M film and that they're selling it for $99, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, you guys are not gonna do anything about it?
There's nothing really I can do as a distributor, and I don't think there's anything 3M can do as a manufacturer, simply because with the legal contract that a dealer signs, to my knowledge, doesn't have anything about pricing in it. And so, again, I don't know why somebody would price to lose, but if it's their option, theoretically, if they could. If your question is, would 3M, try to cancel somebody for doing that? I don't know if they would necessarily have the legal right to do that. I'm not an attorney. Would they do it just because it's good business and to protect other dealers? I don't want to say that they would either, right? I think the pricing conversation is a very sensitive one, and it's something that every manufacturer or distributor has to be very careful of, and we each are guided by our own counsel. So honestly, I don't think I could say would 3M tolerate that and provide you a good answer on that?
But again,
Okay.
I think a lot of people focus on that one pretty hard on, like, especially Manny or 3M. If that's their answer, then like please be mindful and respectful of that answer, right? You've got legal counsel, and there's these guys are paid absorbent amounts of money to keep that company very safe and to not cross any lines that's gonna hurt them, right? And to understand the money that they would have poured into that brand and to build their marketing platforms and their product platforms and everything like that, like to protect it is understood. So if any brand is unwilling to tackle that subject, I want to make sure that, like, even though I'm willing to, that I think they're still doing the right thing on their behalf.
I agree with you. I mean, it is just question whatever you can answer. Like I said to many earlier, is you answer whatever you feel comfortable on. Whatever you don't, just say, hey, no, no, we'll skip on that, or this is all I can answer. And I understand that. It's just we're here to just educate our community and kind of learn from it. And whatever we can get, we will get. Whatever we can't, we can't. And then we all got to respect that at a certain point. Just because somebody wants to do your business, you're not going to tell everybody how you run your whole business. And then in today's world, legal issues are big issues, man. Shit, McDonald's got sued for serving hot coffee and somebody spilled on their lap. Now they have a legal right to put down on every cup that is hot. Shit, if you get a cold coffee, are you gonna drink that? Because you're gonna probably throw that back at that person, be like, "What the hell? I asked for coffee, not a cold drink."
Right.
Uh, just again, I understand that, Chris. Thank you for bringing that up, and I want to just address that to our viewers that you guys got to look at it both ways, guys, and put yourself in their shoes, and But if you got issues, address it. And this is what we're here for: is addressing our issues. Now, I do have a follow up question for both of you guys. I'll go with Manny first on this because I see this a lot. And again, I'm new to the industry, so I don't have that much experience, but I've seen the same issue with a lot of people. 3M is very known name brand. Anybody, I mean, like Chris said earlier, if you don't know 3M, where the hell you been? But there's a lot of people that do sell the $99 tin and they state that they have 3M, and we all know they don't have 3M. They might have bought a box or two, have that as a display, and then they're using some of this cheaper brand, doing that for 3M. Does 3M take any action against that? Or if 3M is giving that opportunity, like let's say one of your dealers says, hey man, this guy says he's selling 3M, are you guys gonna back me up and shut this operation down, send them a cease and letter saying to stop that? Or can you enlighten us on that, or
Yeah.
can you not answer that?
Yeah, no,
Again,
I think I can. I think I can. 3M is very protective of its brand, and it's going to use whatever legal means are at its disposal to protect that brand. A couple things with respect to the $99 tint job. 3M makes about 10 different lines of tint and probably 4 or 5 different lines of paint protection film. A lot of people don't know that, but that's what it is. And the prices range from low, medium to high. So is it possible to buy a 3M film and tint a car for $99 and still make money? Yeah, it is. Is it a film you'd want to necessarily align your business with? Maybe not. So let's just assume we're talking about your standard films that both 3M and XPEL typically go to market with to a dealer, and a dealer typically goes to market with to the consumer. And that there really is a case of baiting and switching here, which is what you're describing.
Right.
Yeah, we would need proof, right? We would need real proof in order to act on it. If a dealer brought it to my attention, and I would say, do you have proof? And if the dealer provided proof, of course, I can't say, as I'm not an attorney, whether or not it's proof or not. But then at that point, I would bring it to 3M's attention, and for 3M to bring it to their counsel's attention. And ultimately, their legal counsel makes the decision as to what to do. What that means, I don't know. I just know that 3M would use whatever legal means are at its disposal, and 3M is very protective of its brand. I alluded to earlier of the contract that a dealer signs with 3M. It's a multi-page contract that really is most focused on the fact that you are given the legal right to use that brand. Perhaps XPEL has something very similar because XPEL also has a well-respected brand, not just in the industry, but also among the end user. And so a manufacturer wanting to protect that brand wants to make sure that there's a lot of legal framework around it. And that framework does provide 3M certain avenues to protect that brand when the dealer is abusing it. So I would say yes to your question in terms of if there's adequate proof that there is baiting and switching going on, and 3M counsel will be made aware of it. What they do is going to be based off of what they think is legally possible.
Yeah, I'll answer on behalf of XPEL. So this is becoming a bigger problem than ever before. Probably much like 3M. I know that there's. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't speak in a term, but I'm just going to speak as if I'm categorically knowing of this. But I know there's a lot of shops out there that have a 3M logo on the front of their shop that are not 3M. Like, I know that I've seen many of them. Some of them are actually XPEL stores. And then I'm like, hey, pull that 3M logo down, not only because I don't want to advertise for 3M, to be very candid, but also because I don't think it's appropriate that you're flying a banner that's not actually accurate. And XPEL has this problem like through and through. I mean, it's insane how rampant it is. Just the other day when I was talking to Ryan Pape, which is our CEO, as part of our council, which we have in-house counsel like 3M does, we are talking about hiring a department, putting together a department that this is the only thing that they're going to focus on. And we're probably going to be doing this in the first quarter of 2023. So I do want to give fair warning to all of those operations that are doing it. You think you're a small operation now without a lot of capital? Well, go to war with 3M or XPEL's legal counsel and let's see how much smaller you are the day after. It's not smart. Don't do it. It's bait and switch. It's bullshit. Stay away from it. And I promise you, I will go to the mats with anybody that's using my logo that way. Gladly. I'm not going to let anybody use XPEL's name that's not XPEL. And my reps know it, and they deal with it constantly. We do our due diligence in that we will reach out to the account first, and we will have a very pleasant conversation with them the first time. And then we will give them 24 to 48 hours to remove all branding and stuff like that. And if they don't, we will send them an email saying, hey, we had a conversation, but I need you to understand that the next communication doesn't come from me. It comes from legal counsel. At that moment, the sales rep is not allowed to interact with you anymore. That's when it becomes expensive for you, the shop. No shop that I'm aware of has legal counsel as a 24/7 staff member. And I don't know if you've looked at legal bills per hour recently. It isn't cheap. So, I'm going to say on behalf of 3M, Eastman, like Suntech, Lumar, Formula One, and XPEL, just stay the fuck away from our names if you're not really using us.
Very nicely put. I appreciate that fair warning.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to the mats with Chris.
I bet. Manny, we have a question from Tim saying,
Yeah,
so
big
since
fan.
I installed 3M vinyl and buy from Fellers, does that give me the rights to display the 3M logo because I install vinyl only?
Yeah, Tim, great question. In fact, it's funny you asked it because I was thinking about just sort of mentioning that in my last response. What I'm speaking to is the ability to represent yourself as a 3M automotive window film dealer or a 3M paint protection film installer. I wasn't speaking with respect to vinyl, but to answer your question, if you buy some vinyl from Fellers, you can even buy it from Energy Products Distribution. You can buy it from a lot of different sources out there. And yeah, I mean, you can do that. And so, I think the responsible dealer distinguishes the logo based on the product that they're selling. So, for example, if you're buying XPEL automotive window film and paint protection film, but you're installing 3M vinyl 2080 because XPEL doesn't offer it, then maybe I can't speak for XPEL, but maybe within XPEL's infrastructure or rules of engagement, it's okay to display that logo. I don't know.
Totally is. No, totally is.
So there you go. So it might also be okay with other manufacturers from a 3M standpoint. If you're buying 3M 2080, yeah, I mean, you have the right to display that logo, but it should be really clear when you do that that logo for 3M is for 2080, so that it doesn't interfere with your tint or PPF brand, be it XPEL, Eastman, Global, anybody else for that matter.
Yeah, so I'm gonna touch up on that, Tim. I think that's exactly what Chris had said earlier is the bait and switch. So just because you're buying 3M vinyl, just don't perceive that as also a window film. That if you're doing expel as window tint and also got a 3M because you're doing vinyl, but then you let the customer think that you're also installing 3M window tint, that's where the bait and switch is going to come in. And that's where it's not good business practice. And you're just putting yourself out there on some liabilities that you shouldn't. It doesn't matter how big or small a business operation you have. And like Chris says, next year they're going to come hard on anybody's ass that's going to do that. So that's a fair warning. I mean, I appreciate that. Again, we're being upfront forward about this. Some guys can speak it openly, some guys cannot, but ultimately everybody has that. Marianne also had the similar question, which I think we just kind of answered, but she had if a dealer's manufacturer carries PPF but doesn't offer a specific PPF, for example, a colored or textured paint protection film, are their dealers allowed to purchase it from a competitive manufacturer? So,
Yeah, great question. This one that we get all the time. So, yeah, we don't make other than black gloss black paint protection film. We don't make any other colors, and there is obviously some really good stuff from brands like Steck, as an example. Flexi Shield is another one. So that's non-competitive, right? Where we will not deviate is clear films, matte colored films, thinner films, thicker films, hydrophobic, films, non-hydrophobic films. We carry all of that, so we will not allow anything else. Ceramic coating is the same thing. We feel that we have a robust line. We have everything you need other than aeronautic. XDC, maybe you'll be seeing. Actually, I'll tell everybody right now at XDC you will be seeing a lot of addition to the ceramic coating lineup. It's been promised to me to be launched by then, so I'm super excited. But other than aeronautic, we have everything you need. There are some coatings that might flash faster, shorter, maybe self healing, things like that. Sorry, but no, coating's coating for us. You're with us for marriage. That's where we're not going to allow any deviation. Vinyl, like I'm a huge fan of 3M's 2080. I've used it a number of times. I think it's stunning. And a lot of times I will tell clients, hey, are you currently doing color change? No. Okay, well, if you get into it, just know that I don't have it. So I would recommend reaching out to my buddy Manny if you're in his area and let him service you. I've done that with him with a number of clients. And if not in his area, then obviously the 3M or fellers in general or somebody else. Also true with architectural window films, in that I don't carry like a really decorative lineup, right? Harry relaunched Vision 2.0. I think that for solar and security, I think that we've got a complete lineup, but we don't have a decorative lineup. And so if somebody's using 3M's decorative lineup or Solex or something like that, it's totally fine.
okay. Tim's got another question. Oh shoot, I love my window film I use. I just wanted to make sense. He brought up the logo when doing tint. I stand all the way behind my window film I install, and it is not one of the top brands everyone says are the top brands. Okay. John Little's got a comment replying to Randy. I mean, seems like good Matt to me. I'm not sure what that is towards, but I do have another question. I think we're at the 2 hour mark, guys. I appreciate you guys sticking around this long. I didn't realize this was gonna go this long. Me
Oh
and
man,
Chris, we
no holds
talked.
barred. It always goes long. Plus, I talk
So
too much.
that you do, my friend. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that.
Oh no.
Uh, all right. Randy Martin had a question that he's asked. I'm a small volume shop, or maybe a statement, and have been tinting for over 35 years. I have been I have had accounts with three of the largest companies. Minimums have been around for years. I was always fortunate to be given a free pass. I'm a registered LLC and always pay my bills, so I'm sure that played a part in the exception. I hope these companies will continue to do that for direct sales, but if not, there are plenty of warehouse to buy from. What do you guys think about that statement?
Yeah, like as I said earlier, like if you're a 3M, sorry, Manny, if you're an XPEL exclusive operation, and we can see that you're genuinely using nothing but us, we're probably not going to enforce the 10K minimum, right? But again, it gets back to like, is the accountant unfortunately being completely honest with us? And you'll go to their social media and you'll see that they're posting 3, 4, 5 cars a day. I mean, the math doesn't lie. Like, it's at that point that you just know that they're not being upfront with you, and that they're telling you that they're exclusive with you, and that they're lying. And
Uh,
look, I get it that some people don't want to lose access to us, or 3M or an Eastman product, but at the end of the day, like, if you're lying and you get caught, well, then so be it. Like, it's like lying, it's like cheating on your wife. You know, I can't go away, honey. Like 364 days of the year, I'm faithful to you. I hope you don't mind the one that I'm not. The one that you're not is the divorce. So I don't know, but I mean, look, ask the gentleman the question in return. Are you tinting more than one car a day? Because if you are, you're buying more than 10 grand a year. Period.
right. Okay. That makes very good sense. John Corey had a question. Why they solicit dealerships with tent packages? Uh, I think this is probably more towards XPEL than it is towards 3M, from what it kind of mentioned. But
So what's the question?
why they
Why do
solicit?
manufacturers go after car dealerships?
Yeah,
Probably.
so like, why is 3M? I mean, why is XPEL in the dealerships doing tent direct? Um,
That's 3M, and everybody else has done this forever. Uh, the reality is that car dealerships look to bring in-house services that they're subletting. All it takes is a new fixed ops guy who's recognizing that the bottom line has got to change and they've got to produce more profit. And that one of the conducive ways to do so is to kick out any third-party operations and to bring that in-house. So it's very rare that prior to the acquisition of Permaplate, that XPEL actually went into any dealership and said, "Hey, you should be using us." What would happen is dealerships would contact us, probably because of a relationship with another dealership, and then say, "Hey, we've understand that you're a brand that we want to look at currently using." Lumar is obviously a big player in this space as well. They have great operation, a great team there, and so now, then what happened was we did some acquisition, right? We bought out Film Wraps, we bought out One Armor, we bought out Permaplate, and all of those were dealership service focused operations where they already had massive clientele, but they had a big sales force that was currently going after dealerships 24/7. So what we've done with those sales reps is we've trained them to say, hey, well, look, please be mindful if you go into a dealership that is currently being serviced by XPEL, then it's probably not a good idea to grab that, right? Joel Valencia from Charleston Window Films. I mean, I wish he was on this podcast right now. That's actually what happened. We had a dealership reach out to us that he was servicing, uh, told us some cockamamie story about how they weren't happy with their current supplier. This was right after the acquisition of Permaplate. The rep went in, sat down, and was just about to close the deal. Joel found out about it, called me. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, they're trying to get XPEL to come direct and kick me out." I got a hold of the rep and told the rep, stand down, tell that dealership that they're already serviced by one of their partners, which is the XPEL operation called Charleston Window Films, and that's where it stayed. So, but again, I don't want to mislead anybody. Look, guys, like it or not, dealerships want to continue bringing this stuff more and more and more in house. As we all know, quite often it fails, and sometimes it's successful. And when it's successful, the benefit is that you can be sure that we force the dealerships to put the XPEL logo on those addendums. It's actually a requirement. So we're continuing to build brand awareness and advertising for you to the consumer marketplace, where perhaps other brands weren't doing that. I'm not trying to point out 3M, by the way, so I apologize if it sounds like I am, because I'm definitely not. But some other brands don't force that narrative at all. That's not an option with us. So we believe that through the generalized marketing that's going to go on, it will continue to benefit the entire the marketplace. Hopefully that works out.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think we should wrap it up. It's pretty late. I know, Chris, you're on vacation. I appreciate you most coming on here, and even though you talk a lot, we do appreciate it all. This is very, very helpful. I know I've got a whole bunch of knowledge. Hopefully, our viewers got a whole bunch of knowledge. So I thank you very much. If you got any closing here, please go ahead and do that. And then Manny, same thing with you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. I know you found out last minute. Thank you for jumping on last minute with us, because apparently Manny didn't get the message when I originally tagged him last week. But thank you again for coming on here. You guys did great job. You guys answered a lot of questions, some questions that we didn't even have that you got answered. I appreciate that. If people have more questions, maybe we'll do a second version to this. But right now, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes into it. I think it's long enough, and everybody's got other things to do as well. Without anything else, if you guys are leaving, Happy New Year to everybody. If you're going to Tenor Battles, I wish to see and meet everybody there. We'll be there for the whole time. Hopefully, we get to see Chris and Manny over there as well. So go ahead, guys. Manny and Chris, whatever you got to say, man. Let's close it up.
Well, first of all, Cash, thank you for having me, obviously, and I'm really glad that Manny was on here too. And I'm also glad that we got to hear from Jake Reed, since he's the one that started this horror thing in the first place. I really appreciate the forum. I think you're doing a great job. And the fact that my buddy Manny's on here as well, I'm super stoked about. I do wish that Eastman could be on here with us, but again, that's a company that has been a little more cautious, and nothing wrong with that. And I got some good friends over there, so hopefully I said the right things on their behalf when I did. And yeah, I do have really long answers, but I like over explaining things so that I don't have people saying I didn't understand later.
I'm very much like you, man. I can talk all day.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Chris said. I mean, Cash, thank you for the opportunity, and it's always good to be able to represent 3M's point of view, even though I don't work directly for 3M. And it's always good to do a podcast with Chris, especially with these no holds barred. I mean, these are a lot of tough questions, and Chris, I commend you. You always are on the hot seat marvelously. But I like the topic. I like the forum. And I appreciate Jay for starting it all, because I think a lot of times dealers don't necessarily understand the manufacturer's perspective. We work very hard to understand the dealer perspective, but we don't walk in a dealer's shoes either. I know Chris has had experience as a dealer. I have too, but right now he represents a manufacturer. I represent a manufacturer by being a distributor. And so, just getting each other's perspective is always important. I too am excited to meet everybody at Tenor Battles. I'll be going down there. Hopefully my Southwest flight won't get delayed. I'll probably have to make another flight, but I do.
Why don't you just drive down with me? I'll come pick you up.
That's what in fact, I may end up driving down, Chris, just to make sure I get there. But I'm looking forward to seeing everybody or meeting people for the first time. And again, would like to thank everybody for listening in. I think it was a great night, and the time went by quickly.
It did, man. I am driving down from Atlanta, so if you want to carpool, man, you are more than welcome to. But I am gonna go a day ahead and help out with some of the setup to some
I'll
of
only
the
be
guys
there
over there.
one day, unfortunately, but I am looking forward to that day. I'll be there, so I'll be there Friday afternoon and all day Saturday.
Perfect.
All right, guys, please pray for Chris's. Is it your daughter or is it your wife?
Crazy fever, yeah, 2 days
Yeah,
in a row.
so he's got a sick person. He's on vacation, and he's got somebody with 104 fever. Man, our prayers with you, brother. Hopefully, you guys can enjoy your rest of your vacation, get better, and we can see you at Tenor Battles next week. Everybody, Happy New Year, good night, and thank you all for tuning in. Chris and Manny, thank you very much again for coming on this and providing us with all that information.
My
Great
pleasure.
night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.